For Asgard. Yes, my friends, Thor's back with another solo movie, and this time he's a lot less serious than in his previous movies. Now, as someone who isn't really a fan of Thor, hell, he's probably my least favorite member of the Avengers. I enjoyed the first Thor movie, the second one, not so much. But this time around, I feel that Thor has finally hit his stride with his buddy action comedy. Remember those funny skits with Thor moving in with Daryl that Marvel released last year explaining what Thor and the Hulk were up to during the events of Civil War? Well, that's the tone that's continued on in Thor Ragnarok. This movie's a straight up comedy, and they just jump right into the jokes in the very first scene of the movie, and that could either make you love or hate this movie. So after the events of Age of Ultron, Thor was on a mission looking for the Infinity Stones, and started having visions of the prophesied destruction of Asgard, known as Ragnarok. He tries to prevent this from happening, and eventually runs into the villain of the movie, Hela, who is looking to capture and rule Asgard, and is played by the super sexy Cate Blanchett. I mean, look at her in this movie. She is hot as fuck. Anyway, Thor and Loki encounters Hela, and they totally get their asses handed to them. She breaks Thor's hammer, and they get thrown into space only to crash land on Sakaar, which is the Grandmaster's planet, who is played by Jeff Goldblum. And that's when the comedy is dialed up to 10. Thor meets a Hulk and has to fight him in a Gladiator match. Loki pisses his pants and starts having PTSD from the events of the first Avengers movie where the Hulk made him his bitch. And Thor has to figure out a way to get back home, to stop Hela and save Asgard. So what did I like about this movie? Well, unlike Thor The Dark World, which I thought was boring as hell, I found Thor Ragnarok to be very entertaining. The humor and comedy they incorporate into Ragnarok is a good change of pace for Thor, and I think it suits him quite well. I feel like this is almost a soft reboot for Thor. I mean, they took away his hammer, cut his hair, and gave him a brand new look, but at the same time, they kept the essence of the character intact. Chris Hemsworth is pretty good with comedy, and I feel that he has finally come to his own with the character of Thor. He definitely shines in this movie, and I thought that the scenes with him and both the Hulk and Banner were hilarious. It's hard to believe that this is the 17th Marvel movie that's been released. 17! And because of that, the cinematic universe has a plethora of references to mention. Thor Ragnarok brings up a lot of things that occurred in the past Marvel movies. One of the references that I found hilarious was when Thor attempted to do the sun's getting real low bit that Black Widow did to the Hulk in Age of Ultron to try to turn him back to Banner. And there were other references and Easter eggs that were just littered throughout the movie. Besides Chris Hemsworth, I thought all the other cast was great in the movie as well. Cate Blanchett is a strong villain for the film, and I'm hoping that they'll bring her back in future Marvel movies. Karl Urban was pretty funny as Scourge, Tom Hiddleston is great as Loki, as was Mark Ruffalo playing the Hulk and Banner, and Jeff Goldblum is the most Goldblum that ever Goldblumed. But the character that cracked me up the most was that rock guy, Korg, who is played by Taika Waititi, and is also the director of the film. Korg just steals all the scenes that he's in, and was a pleasant surprise for Thor Ragnarok. Watching this film, it reminded me a lot of the movies from the 80s that I watched when I was a kid. One in particular that it reminded me of was the 1986 Transformers animated movie. I don't know, maybe because both movies takes place on garbage planets and are filled with colorful set pieces. I also really enjoyed the soundtrack for this movie. It reminded me a lot of the Tron Legacy soundtrack and featured a lot of electronica. It just works very well with the look and feel of the movie. Although I really enjoyed the change of pace for Thor, turning it into a comedy, I found that the constant barrage of jokes didn't always hit. There are a couple seminal moments that happened in the movie that I felt should have been more heartfelt or emotional, and I felt that they were diminished with the implementation of humor. Unlike the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie, which knew when to halt the humor, Thor Ragnarok just rolls on with the comedy throughout the movie. Whether or not you feel this was appropriate for the scene is up to your taste. I personally would have preferred if they didn't downplay such seminal moments in the movie. I also felt that the movie was strongest during its first two acts, where it was more of a buddy comedy between Thor and Loki, or Thor and the Hulk, or Thor and Banner. The third act just dives into your expected finale for a superhero movie, where the good guys fight the bad guys in an all-out CGI fest. But other than those criticisms, I thoroughly enjoyed Thor Ragnarok, and found it very entertaining and funny. The new comedic take for Thor is a well-liked change of pace for the franchise, and makes me a happy panda. So what'd you guys think of Thor Ragnarok? Do you like this more funny Thor, or do you prefer the more serious Thor? Tell me what you thought in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, share it, and subscribe if you haven't already. It'll really help out the channel. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Panda out. Ouch.